Neither WJOU or its licensee, Oakwood University, necessarily share all the views expressed in its programs. They are, however, presented as public information.
Good afternoon and welcome to Second Chance. Second Chance is a weekly talk show that examines a wide range of social issues and seeks to inspire physical, emotional, social, and spiritual healing, believing that God is a God of second chances. And through faith, all things are possible. Second Chance airs live each week from the beautiful campus of Oakwood University and features real people with real issues and offers real answers. And now, here's your host, Kenneth Anderson.
Good afternoon and welcome to the broadcast, and a Merry Christmas to each and every one of you. The day that we've been waiting over 300 days for has finally arrived, and this Sunday, it is Christmas Sunday, and we're so happy and honored that you've taken this time to be with us, because I know it is a holiday. It's a very special holiday for family, loved ones, and friends. And I know that if you're listening to this broadcast right now at 2 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time in the afternoon here in Huntsville, Alabama, on the internet at wjou.org, or live streaming, checking us out on the live stream right now on Praise 90.1 FM or the YouTube page, Praise 90.1 FM, then you are absolutely some of our most precious gifts today as we celebrate the Christmas holiday. I hope everybody's having a great day. And I hope that everybody is playing it safe, meaning that if you're moving from point A to point B, that you're being mindful about your travel. I hope that if you're eating, that you're going to consider eating in moderation. Nobody wants to hurt themselves during the holiday season. And I hope that everybody remembers the true reason for this season is really all about the gift. Not getting, but the gift, what we give to other people and how we share and serve other people in our lives and communities. And that's a big part of what our theme will be today as we talk to some very special guests on this very special day. Now, I want to remind everybody that on last Sunday, we memorialized my beautiful mother-in-law, Mother Ernestine Fletcher Tibbs, who passed on December the 11th. If you've listened to this show, or you know anything about me, or have been around in my space for the last 2.5 years, you know that Mother Tibbs was a staple in my life, and I miss her dearly. I have dedicated the last 3 shows of the year to her life and her legacy. So this is the second time over the past couple of weeks that I'm dedicating this show in memory of her life and her legacy. And I hope that you will join me as well in just continuing to keep my wife, Sonia, and I in your thoughts and prayers and well wishes as we continue to experience this transition. I want to let you guys know that I am thrilled to be here in the studio for many reasons today, but one of the reasons is because of my first guest this afternoon, who is going to share some information with us through the power of virtual space. You know, that's a wonderful thing about this technology that we have available to us, that we can talk to anybody, anywhere, at any time. And I have a very special guest with me this afternoon who I want to introduce at this time. She's Dr. Teresa Merriweather Orok. She is an academic and expert on economic and business innovation. Now, while her career spans more than 30 years of experience across grants, government contract management, economic development, government and higher education, she currently serves as the inaugural director of the Center for Entrepreneurship, Innovation, and Economic Development at the great Alabama A&M University, one of my alma maters, I'm very proud to say. She assisted more than 200 businesses in startup and business scaling, including her continuous work over 75 businesses across the state of Alabama to aid in COVID-19 pandemic revitalization and stabilization. Dr. Orok, in addition to all of the things I've already said about her, her work is also engaged in statewide and regional incubating startups, growing small businesses, and managing large-scale business and government partnerships. She also facilitates student education around entrepreneurship and innovation skills to best prepare students at HBCUs for the future of work. She is also a fellow with the Appalachian Region Commission Leadership Institute in Washington, D.C., the first HBCU representative for this coveted position. And we say congratulations on being a trailblazer and pioneer as far as that nomination was concerned. And she is also, or was recently elected to serve as vice president of the preeminent National University Economic Development Association, UEDA. In this historic position, she represents the first Black female and first HBCU representative within the UEDA's 50-year existence. Ladies and gentlemen, join me in welcoming this trailblazer and pioneer to the Second Chance platform, Dr. Teresa Merriweather Orok. Merry Christmas to you and welcome to the Second Chance broadcast.
Absolutely. And Merry Christmas to you and to all of our listeners and viewers. It is a pleasure for me to be here and to talk about just how good God has been in our lives, in the lives of my family and my institution and this community. So as we celebrate this Christmas day, we know that it is but from the gift and the glory of God that we're here. So thank you for having me.
Well, listen, it is an honor and a pleasure to kick off this very special broadcast today of the Second Chance broadcast, talking with you. And Dr. Orok, even though we've had an opportunity to move around in common space in the academic institution and the community and more, I've seen you really, do your work out there and get the job done consistently, and that's a beautiful thing. The reason that I initiated this specific conversation was because of a post that I saw on LinkedIn that was talking about a person who had overcome a very serious injury. Actually, she was talking about her husband who had overcome a very serious injury that could have easily resulted in his loss. And of course, all of us through life experience adversity and trauma at times, and many of us have the tremendous blessing of overcoming through various things. Well, you responded to that comment, and I immediately, to that posting, I immediately reached out to you and said, hey, whatever's going on, we need to talk about this because I see you as a leader in our community. I see you as a person of influence, and I just knew there was a backstory that I perhaps did not know about but wanted to learn more about. So that's the place we want to start today. Talk a little bit about your childhood, your upbringing, and some of the things that you experienced that put you on the pathway to where you are today.
And listen, and thank you so very much for engaging me today, especially as we celebrate the best gift of all, the gift of Jesus Christ. I, of course, grew up in West Tennessee, in Jackson, Tennessee, from a very large family. Most of them are still there. So there's 5 generations of us that expands more than 150 people, from across the various ages. So the piece that I really want to talk about very briefly, and I know that you have some other things that we will talk about, is just when you talk about a second chance, that's really the space that I find myself in. And as I look over my life, that's the moment, that's the event that has enabled me and propelled me into the space where I am now. It's called purposeful living for me. So at the age of 2, with all of the children, there were 11 of us. Of course, living in the rural communities back in the 1960s, my family, of course, like most of the families, all of the families, utilized the wringer washer. And so the water for the wringer washing machine was heated by a black kettle. And so, of course, all of the children running around, and we're fascinated by fire. And so at the age of 2, playing alongside my sisters and brothers and cousins, because it was indeed a village, my dress caught fire. Mm. And so the the glory of God does not allow me to remember that episode, does not allow me to remember even the recovery of that. So, but it has instilled within me a sense of purpose, a sense of doing well within the community, and a sense of giving back. And so the thing that really happened is to talk about just how good God was and still is at that particular moment. In rural community, access to transportation was very limited, but how he really um, aligned things to happen such that I could get to the regional hospital where very few Blacks were being allowed at that time. And this is 1960. And then we're not talking about family of great means. My father was an entrepreneurial person, concrete finisher, and my family continues in that business. But you can imagine that back then, just how difficult it was. And so, being transported by a neighbor to the hospital in a car was really an episode there. And so that period lasted. The recuperation lasted for probably 4 or 5 years. So the earliest remembrance that I have of my childhood was probably when I was about 5 or 6. And after that, I was able to move around and had begun elementary school there in Jackson, as we know it as Blair's Chapel, which is now Blair's Chapel CME Church. And so I just want to talk about that because we don't get where we are just by waking up in the morning and saying, this is what I want to do. There's a journey involved. And having strong parents with faith, having a father who, of course, believed in work, believed in supporting people as a cement finisher. I can truly say that he trained every Black man who is now a cement finisher within that particular region. My brothers now have the business. They've carried on the business and have contracts from across the U.S. And it all starts there. So the second chance was not only just a chance for me, but it was also a chance for my family and for those families within the community. So I give of myself for that purpose. And as I, stand here or sit here today, especially celebrating the gift, I first of all want to celebrate the gift of life because I was given only a 10% chance of survival. And of course, at that time, we didn't have the technologies, we didn't have the infrastructure, and all of those things, especially for a young Black child coming into a hospital where we, invariably didn't have the resources to pay for that kind of treatment. But due to God's grace and due to the angels that were watching over us and God's covering over us, over my family, we were able to really survive and to do the work that we do. So when you see me, Mr. Anderson, and others see me out in the community, just know one thing. It's not about me. It's about the purpose for which I've been placed here on this earth. And one of my favorite scriptures is Jeremiah 29:11. It says, "For I know the plans that I have for you." I wake up each and every morning thinking about the plans that he has for me and thinking about how I can best help someone else through this life, through this journey. So I come to Alabama A&M not even knowing where normal Alabama was. In fact, Dr. Michael and I stopped along the way and asked someone, "Where's normal Alabama?" And of course, they couldn't tell us. And so when I got there, I said, "Lord, why did you take me out of my good, cushy job in Albany, Georgia, to come to Huntsville?" But I can tell you that it has been one of the greatest experiences that we have had, that Dr. Michael and I have had. We've been able to really get into the community, to grow programs at the university. I am very actively engaged in community engagement. Started a very long time ago at Fulton County Government, where I hit the ground running at about the age of 22.
Yeah.
So that is where I am. And when we look at these incidents in our lives and we wonder why, it's not the why, but it's, to me, the what. What can I take away from this? What can I help to move forward as a result of this? And so what you see in me every day is very authentic, very genuine. And this is the kind of joy that I want to spread throughout the campus and throughout the Huntsville community. And thank you so very much for inviting me to share that story again.
Absolutely. Listen, that is so full of inspiration and so much to unpack there. I already know that I'm going to have you come back at some point because there's some really rich stuff in what you said there, and time won't permit us to cover it all. We still have a few more things to talk about, but I do want to highlight a couple of things that you said that I think are significant. Number one, it's not about us. And when we have this kind of opportunity to celebrate the Christmas season, we should be other-centered in how we think about the season because there's so much going on around us. Number one, there's so much that we need to be thankful for, but there's so many people around us who could benefit from our generosity and our ability to be able to give based on how we have been blessed in the context of our own lives. And then the whole matter of purpose. I mean, you nailed it right there when you started talking about you have been placed, you and I and everybody listening today have been placed in the spaces that we're in for a purpose. And every one of our lives is worthy of self-examination to determine what that purpose is. Because when we find out and discover our purpose in life, we will feel an energy that we've never felt before, and we'll feel a conviction that we've never felt before that will never feed our own souls in terms of our own selfish, human selfish ambitions, but will always seek to be able to provide for other people. And I know that serving in an academic institution is an amazing experience. I'm an educator too, been in the academic space since 1990 as an instructor. I've been a chairperson. I've been a dean. One of the things, and now I'm a mentor to students who I take as interns and have done that for many years. I don't think there's anything finer than being in a space where you can lend your skills and gifts to students. And I know you do that every day in terms of the work that you provide, whether it's talking about entrepreneurship, whether it's talking about workforce development, whether it's talking about just overall success. And I wonder if you would just, in this particular moment, share briefly about your thoughts about the significance of you being in this space in order to be able to support the academic journey of students.
Oh, my goodness. So, yeah, I will have to come back to really talk about that. But I have been in academics for over 30 years, a little over 30 years now. And there's a purpose. And it's not just about being in the classroom, but also that mentorship, that being able to lead our students, to the next level and through the next level, to and through the next level of their careers. Dr. Michael and I have been instrumental in educating hundreds of students across the state of Georgia, across the state of Alabama. Many of them have gone on now to receive terminal degrees. We have some that are in international positions and hold executive positions both in government and um, one of our students, I believe he was on with you before, was commissioned by the Atlanta Mayor Shirley Franklin, who commissioned him to do work in establishing a budget analytics type program. So that's the kind of work that we are really doing. And the other thing, and I'm going to say this very briefly, is also not just in the classroom. Very early in our careers, we set forth an opportunity to develop and to stand up centers of, of, of public policy and economic development in Southwest Georgia. We had 2 floods that destroyed a third of the city. We were able to go in and to not only, through the academic process, but from a very pragmatic standpoint, help to rebuild and utilizing HUD funds and FEMA funds and all of that to begin to restore the community. And I do the same kind of work at Alabama A&M. Have a number of grants and contracts that permits us to do the same kind of work. Work extensively with the corporations there in Huntsville. They support me, I support them. And so it has been a wonderful collaboration, a wonderful partnership. And alongside me are my students and also other faculty who really want to get out there and to do the best that they can do. I believe that we as academicians have a responsibility of not only training our students from the textbook, but also training them for real life. And so what that means is that we must have those real life experiences so that we can better shape and frame the mindset of our students, especially at our HBCUs. That's our mission.
Absolutely. And, what you're saying brings further clarity to your understanding of your purpose. You know exactly where you have been planted, and you know exactly what kind of work you need to be engaged in. And of course, this has been recognized at more than just the local level. Of course, Alabama A&M University making some huge strides in our community. Very proud to be a graduate of A&M and also a big supporter of A&M. I've served on several committees and other kinds of advisory boards there. We'll continue to do that as long as I have the ability and opportunity to do so. I think A&M is a jewel in our own community and our region and our nation and our world, because many students come here from many parts of the world as well and come here, earn their degrees, and go back to their homes and be able to plant their own seeds in their communities. But Dr. Orok, you are also, as I said in the introduction, you are a fellow as it relates to the Appalachian Region Commission Leadership Institute based in Washington, D.C., the first HBCU representative selected for this coveted position. You're also, as I noted, the vice president of the preeminent National University Economic Development Association, representing the first Black female and first HBCU representative within this organization's 50-year history. In the last few minutes that we have, talk a little bit about the significance of these appointments to you.
So, yeah, thank you for bringing this up. I say to my colleagues within both organizations that I may be the first, but I have a long line of people behind me who I want to bring in as well. The Appalachian Regional Commission is federally funded. It covers 19 states, 423 counties of the most underserved and distressed communities across the U.S. And so as a fellow within the leadership program, I've had an opportunity to meet a lot of people and to really begin to do the work that is needed within our communities. For one major factor is that the billions of dollars that go into that organization doesn't always reach our minority communities. So I have become a poster child, if you will, for the work that needs to be done across our Black and Brown communities, because we represent a very significant number of businesses there. I work very closely with the Capital Fund programs that provide resources to businesses and to economic development, and to also focus on workforce development, especially for our Black and Brown communities. So we continue to be in the throes. I was able to acquire for the first time scholarships for our students at Alabama A&M. So we have 4 scholarships from the Appalachian region. This is the first time in the history that this has been done. The other organization, UEDA, the University of Economic Development Association, I joined with them just to do a couple of webinars around HBCUs. And when I knew anything, I was being placed on the slate to become the vice president. And so I serve as a vice president within that organization. Again, bringing along those HBCUs. We were in San Antonio recently. I convened a panel of HBCU leaders to talk about their roles as anchor institutions and what they're doing to build out economic development opportunities for not only their students, but for their communities. So this is the kind of efforts that I want to continue. I was just on a conference call with that group earlier today. We have mighty plans. It is my intent to bring more HBCUs into the economic development space. We work with grant opportunities from Department of Commerce, EDA, and I really want to bring more of our institutions into that space so that we will have those university centers and to really take advantage of innovation and entrepreneurship and all of the great things that this organization can offer. So I am the first, but as I said, there's a long line of people who stand behind me. So thank you so very much.
Listen, Dr. Orok, I tell you, you are absolutely a pioneer and trailblazer, and we are so appreciative and fortunate to have you as part of the Huntsville, Alabama community operating over there in Normal, Alabama, which is
I finally found it.
which is right up the street over there.
Yeah.
Listen,
we finally found the location, so it's all great.
It's all good, and you guys are planted now firmly in the community. You're not going anywhere anytime soon, and we're the better for it. Tell people how they can reach out to you if you have a presence out there and they want to follow up anything that we've talked about today.
Absolutely. So you can reach out to me, of course, on LinkedIn. And Mr. St. Jones, our media person, does an excellent job in promoting the activities that are headed by the Center for Entrepreneurship, Innovation, and Economic Development. And I want you to know that I appreciate the work and the partnerships under the center. There is no way that I can do the caliber work or the volume of work that is being done under the center without the community support. And then, of course, you can also reach me via email, and that's teresa.orok, O-R-O-K, at AAMU. And my on my signature line is my mobile number. So I'm always accessible. I'm not an 8 to 5 kind of person. My father instilled that within us when he used to wake us up about 4 o'clock. And that one last thing, and used to tell us that it was daylight everywhere. And for those of you who are from the rural community, you're going to appreciate this. He used to say, "It's daylight even in the thickets."
Mm,
Okay, so he said it is daylight all over the world. But now that I understand, my father really didn't have a knowledge of globalism. So,
mm.
so that was his take. So, but we understand that.
Yeah, yeah, that's
Yeah,
good.
so we understand that.
That's good stuff, Dr. Orok. Listen, my regards to Dr. Michael Orok, and I hope you guys enjoy this beautiful Christmas holiday. And Merry Christmas to you once again. We look forward to our next conversation with you.
Absolutely. And there's no other place that I would have rather been on Christmas Day than spending it with you, Mr. Anderson, and all of the fabulous and impactful work that you're doing across this community and across the state and across the nation. God bless you and your wife as we remain in prayer for you. Thank you so very much.
Thank
Thank
you
you for
so
this
much.
opportunity.
All right. Have a good rest of the day.
Absolutely.
All right. Dr. Teresa Merriweather Orok joining us this afternoon on this very special Christmas Day edition of the Second Chance radio broadcast. Merry Christmas to all of you out there who may just be tuning in right now. It is the day we've been waiting for, and I hope that everybody's having a good one in the process. I'm going to come back in just a moment with my next guest, but we got to do a couple of pieces of housekeeping, and then we'll bring it right back at you. Kenny Anderson, Second Chance. I hope that you're having an amazing afternoon.
You know that the ice cream scoop has the power to make a child smile, and that by slowing us down, the traffic light can keep us going. You know that the golf tee brings friends together, that the mailbox keeps them connected. You know that the cataract laser helps you look to the future, while the pacemaker ensures that there's a future to be seen. You know that the lawnmower, the clothes dryer, and the elevator make life easier, that the blood bank makes life possible. You know that these things we count on every day started as ideas. But did you know all these ideas came from the minds of African Americans? Support minority education today so we don't miss out on the next big idea tomorrow. The United Negro College Fund, a mind is a terrible thing to waste. Please visit uncf.org or call 1-800-332-UNCF. Brought to you by UNCF and the Ad Council.
Transforming lives.
Transforming lives.
You're listening to Second Chance with Kenneth Anderson.
Welcome back to the broadcast. Merry Christmas to everyone once again. It is the Second Chance Christmas edition of the broadcast. I'm Kenny Anderson, host and producer. Always delighted to be here with you. And we're just celebrating the Christmas season, the Christmas day. Of course, once again, this show is being dedicated to the memory, the life and legacy of my beautiful mother-in-law who passed on December the 11th, who we funeralized and memorialized and celebrated on December 17th, just a week removed. And we're still celebrating her life through the dedication of this broadcast today to her beautiful and awesome memory. I want to continue the conversation this afternoon by bringing on my next guest. He's no stranger to this broadcast. In fact, he's been on this platform before. I don't know where he's been. I guess he's been out there working somewhere because we've had a little bit of a challenge getting him back on. But we roped him down today on Christmas Sunday. He's none other than actor Tony Todd. Tony, let me introduce you properly before I bring you into the conversation. Tony Todd is perhaps best known for his chilling portrayal in the title role of Candyman. Since his film debut in the motion picture Sleepwalk in 1986, followed almost immediately by an amazing starring role in Oliver Stone's Academy Award-winning film Platoon. If you haven't seen Platoon, by the way, folks, shame on you. This charismatic 6'5" tall actor has consistently turned in compelling performances after compelling performances. He has a litany of films that he has to his credit, and his films have grossed more than $6 billion. That's billion with a B, folks, at the box office worldwide. Tony Todd is box office gold, and he's back on the Second Chance radio show platform. Tony, my man, what's going on?
What's up, Kenny? It's a pleasure to be back with you on Second Chance. Merry Christmas, everybody. Happy holidays. Happy Kwanzaa.
Yes.
Let's put it all together and put it in the same pot because we always make it a stew together.
There you go, man. I like the way we're starting this right now for sure, man. Listen.
Yeah. Condolences to your mother-in-law, by the way.
Thank you. I appreciate that so much.
I know it's hard to lose a loved one, but we all take our time that we have on this humble planet and try to make an impact. And I'm sure she did for you and your family.
Absolutely. And I thank you for sharing that sentiment. It means so much to me, and I will definitely pass it on to my wife as well.
Thank you.
Tony, the last time we spoke, you were about to fire up that Candyman sequel.
Correct.
And, I want to hear about that first before I talk about some other things that I want to talk to you about because we have not talked since then. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, it was a smashing success. Jordan Peele got back at the helm of the Candyman franchise along with Nia DaCosta, beautiful and brilliant young Black filmmaker who since doing Candyman got slated to do Miss Marvel and is now on her way and firmly ensconced in the Hollywood director's chair. And, they can listen, in Hollywood, a lot of people think there can only be one of each kind. There is room for a whole nation as long as you stick to your principles. Everything starts with the written word. So it's been my experience that as collective African Americans, we have so many stories to tell just by surviving, just by navigating the streets and the rhythms of our lives. So if you really want to be part of that community, write your story. It deserves to be seen. It deserves to be told. And who knows, maybe one day a great film can be made out of your experiences and shine a light on someone else's struggle or triumph. So yes, Candyman was successful. It made a lot of money, and they're in pre-production for yet another one.
Yeah, listen, Jordan Peele is a master for sure. I'm just really appreciating seeing him turn out what he's been turning out. It's really can't miss Hollywood. I mean, it's just you don't want to miss what he produces. And
it's amazing. It's amazing who they let into the kingdom and when they allow it to happen. But he's knocking it out of the park, and I can't be mad at him.
Yeah, right.
He's presenting opportunities for a whole lot of people. And that's fantastic.
Absolutely. Listen, I want to ask you about a little follow-up on what we're talking about right now, because a few weeks ago I was talking about the success of Wakanda Forever and some of the other projects that are coming out, whether they're Black actors, whether they're Black directors, whether they're Black producers or writers, et cetera, et cetera. What your sense is right now as the tone of Hollywood in terms of, are we making the kinds of progress that we need to make, always recognizing that progress can be made? What is your general sense of what's happening in Hollywood right now?
Well, things can always be better. I think the world is facing a time of turbulence, what with the pandemic, what with political turmoil and strife, the takeover of Twitter. Listen, I was raised by my aunt who told me, boy, right is right and wrong is wrong. And only a fool wouldn't know the difference. I think that now is a time for more people, quote unquote, people on the spectrum to get involved in the Hollywood, struggle. I want to call it a struggle because it is not a short race. It's a marathon to anybody who gets anywhere near the tip of the volcano. And so now we're including women more. We're including transgender. We're including all sorts of people into this thing, and their stories are getting a chance to be told. Now, once you have your opportunity, make sure your story is truthful, enlightening, and definitely has something to say, everlasting. So I think it's a good time creatively for not only Hollywood, but us as a nation of people. There are so many stories out there. Come on.
Yeah.
We have witnessed so many outrageous behaviors, so many obstructions of justices. But, it all lies in the heart. And on a day like today, Christmas, which should be about not only celebrating the birth of Jesus Christ, but like celebrating our families and giving Oscars to the people in the household that deserve, that accolade for all the hard work it takes to stay stable as a Black family, but as any nuclear family in America.
Yeah, boy, that's good stuff. In fact, you've segued into my next conversation because I always like to talk to people around this year about what their thoughts are about what the Christmas holiday means. And of course, there are various themes that come along: family, food, fellowship, fun, and so much more. Talk a little bit about maybe some of your memories or some of the things that inspire you the most about this time of year.
Well, I was raised by my beautiful Aunt Clara Elliston, who always, and I was an only child. I mean, so I was spoiled. Not only that, I have a December birthday, the 4th. So I had 2 Christmases in 1 month and a brilliant new year to look forward to. And I just remember that warmth, the love that goes into cooking a pan of food, a plate of food, a pot of food. Those of us we live in a hurry up and get fast society. If you take the time and talk to your child as you're making food, so that they can smell the aroma of love, so that they can taste the flavor of tradition, we'll be a lot better off. So I remember those memories quite fondly. Whenever she said, "Anthony, it's time to eat," you could hear me running down the hallway and just sitting at the table, eating her food and listening to her lessons.
Okay, 2 questions. Number one, do you cook yourself?
Yes, I do. I learned cooking from my aunt. Um, I have one of my hobbies is collecting culinary tools. I have a great selection of knives. Don't take that serious, folks. But I know I cut an onion when I need to, and a lot of spices from around the world. And I just love, for me, a lot of people, we got to get rid of the fast food mentality. That stuff will kill you, number one. Uh, there's so many flavors available to us in the world. And every day for me, like today, I'm already thinking when I'm going to have a late breakfast and what am I going to, start preparing for the new year. So it's a beautiful thing.
All right.
And this year in particular has been stunning for me.
Mm.
I knew that my daughter Ariana was going to get married to the lovely and gracious Sean back in November,
Mm.
and once I got that news, my work plate just like piled up. And so the first 3 months I gave to them, and then the rest of it was gravy. And the wedding went off smashingly in New York City in Soho,
Wow.
and
Wow.
I'm a father, a new father-in-law.
Wow.
So,
I mean, what a special way to kind of move into this holiday season, a family edition, a beautiful experience for your
uh,
daughter.
unbelievable.
The proud father, I can tell for sure.
Yes, absolutely. And then I got some of my most, we got 2 films coming out in January.
Mm.
Traveling Light by Bernard Rose, who directed the original Candyman. We shot it at the beginning of the pandemic. I play an Uber driver who's trying to navigate the madness and at the same time look for my lost son.
Mm.
And then another film called All Gone Wrong, where we shot in Missouri.
Mm.
And it's based on the true story of a suburban drug lord who's, wears sweaters, but as ruthless as anybody with a 45. So
Wow.
we got those 2 things. And I'm so happy to announce, after the last 2 years, I spent at the Pennsylvania Shakespeare Festival doing August Wilson. First, I
Oh.
did How I Learned What I Learned as one-man show. And then last summer, we did Fences.
Mm.
Because of the word of mouth of that, I've been offered a role at the Geffen Theater out here in LA for a new brilliant play called The First Deep Breath,
Wow.
written by Lee Edward Colston II. This play, Chicago critics are calling it the next great American play. I play a pastor on the verge of achieving a megachurch. However, my family unit is on the verge of destruction. And it's a brilliantly written piece. And if anybody's out in the LA area, you cannot miss this. We open February 3rd. We run it for 5 weeks, closing March 12th. So, and it's
That.
a 3.5 hour play.
Oh.
So that I'm going to start my year thoroughly working out my chops.
That sounds fascinating. I mean, my.
What a gift! We got the gift. I'm doing a project in Stockholm I've been in Stockholm 3 times now over the last year and a half. One more year, one more visit, and thankfully they allowed me to extend. We were going to do it anyway, but they graciously allowed me out of it. So they're waiting for me. So as soon as I finish the play, I got to go back over there. But
All right.
my heart will be full. We will reach many, many people.
Yeah.
Mega churches is something else.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. That's going to be, I think, just a fascinating experience. And
I'll make sure I send you some reviews in case you
Yep.
can't make it.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I'll be willing to embrace that for sure, because that
Thank
sounds
you.
very interesting. Tony, let me let everybody know, first of all, I'm talking with actor Tony Todd, much more than just an actor, though. A lot of times, sometimes when we're on the outside of a person's celebrity or craft, we see them as that person, but already he has helped us understand that there are many levels to his life. I appreciate the depth with which he's already been sharing things with us. He did it the last time he was here, and so I always look forward to having him as part of this platform. Tony, I've got my own Tony Todd favorite movies, and I know you may have your own favorite role as well. I'm going to ask you for that in a moment, but I'm going to give you my 3 favorites. Lean on Me, which I saw about 2 weeks ago, and I was like, wow, that movie just stands the test of time for so many reasons. Of course, there is Platoon, which I also saw recently, maybe about a month or so ago, and just
It's amazing.
what a
That was-
film!
That's my very first one, man. That I hit the ground running. It was wonderful.
How did you get that role?
Well, I was a bartender at the time in New York. I had got my master's in theater. I got my equity card in New York within a week of my arriving. And I was fortunate enough to land a job as a bartender at a theater bar called the West Bank Theater Cafe. And Lewis Black was our MC, who's now going on to all kinds of satirical political comment. But I was able to do plays there and then go back behind the bar. So I was doing a one-man show called Johnny Got His Gun by Dalton Trumbull, who was blacklisted through the communist outrage. And a powerful piece. Anyway, Oliver Stone's people saw it. And next thing you know, I'm having a meeting with him. And next thing you know, I'm on my way to the Philippines, which my aunt didn't want me to go because at the time Marcos has been disposed and was political turmoil over there. And she said, baby, don't you go out over there. Just like when Martin Luther King got assassinated. Last time she laid her hands on me, I wanted to go out in that crowd. I could hear my friends out there. I could smell it. And she refused to let me go outside. And I will always honor her for that.
Wow, that's some powerful reflections for sure.
Yeah.
I am just deeply inspired by the depth of your own personal investment in culture and history. Definitely want to talk to you a little bit more about that, but I got to give you my 3rd film, and I should qualify this, but no, it's okay. I should say I'm qualifying this other than Candyman, the top 3 roles, and of course The Rock. Your insistence on the general, following through what the general initially set out to do, it's just wonderful.
We're already facing life, okay? You got me in this situation. Are you kidding me?
You're not going to get out of this, general.
But that's a perfect metaphor for power structure in this country. You know what I'm saying? They'll lead you to the water and then try to desert you.
Yeah. Wow.
But you mentioned 3 good fun films. I mean, I have fun doing all my films. It's a beautiful profession. I encourage it to anybody out there that wants to have fun and tell a story and make a statement on cultural society. And I wouldn't be other than teaching. I wouldn't be doing anything else.
Yeah. What do you think about generally about the political landscape and the political discourse in our country today, which of course is always yielding headlines and other kinds of significant things that are going on in our world today? Generally, what are your thoughts about where we are as a nation?
I think it's horrible. I think, we grew up with a set of values. Truth is truth. I never heard of fake news in my life until 4 years ago. You can believe what you see with your own eyes. You can listen with your own ears, and you can look at someone and tell whether they are well-intentioned or not. I think it's made our country more and more divisive. We have more random shootings than ever before in our country's history, and this has to stop. I was encouraged by the results of the January 6th committee a couple weeks ago, and well, let's see what the DOJ does now. Because in my time, if a man of color had a subpoena and didn't show up, or just wantonly says, "I'm not going to honor the subpoena," I mean, we get put in jail for jaywalking. You know what I'm saying? I mean, so it's talk about equal rights or make America great again. America's already great. We are a nation of good people. We're a nation of immigrants. We're a nation of people from all over the world, and that's what gives us our unique flavor. We have the most diverse food. I'm sorry, I'm a foodie. We have the most diverse food cultures of anywhere in the world other than Africa. Um, and, I think people that make a fortune trying to divide this country for their own political gain is a major misstep and where we need to be going forward.
Yeah, I was
And,
about.
and this whole cancellation of woke culture. I mean, woke is woke. I mean, you can either walk through life being aware, or you can walk through life with your head in the sand. Uh, we have to be more inclusive, and self-hatred goes a long way for trying to. So, check yourself before you try to wreck somebody else's potential.
Yeah, beautiful. Well said for sure. So a moment ago, I was going to ask you what your favorite Tony Todd movie role was. You ready to reveal
Well,
that for us?
um, I've been getting a lot of voiceover work lately, which is a whole new medium. I'm being exposed to a whole new generational group of people, kids mostly. And I'm really proud of my work on the upcoming Spider-Man 2 video game. I played Venom. Um, uh, a lot of people think voiceover work is easy. It really isn't. I've been after this ever since my kids were little. I tried to get into a Disney film, never got into one. Okay, and not until I did Transformers about 15 years ago. It didn't seem like it was going to happen. But once you get into the voiceover game and you start, each character led to another. I mean, I've been able to do Darkseid for Superman, Zoom for the Flash, and now Venom for Spider-Man, and that's fun. And but my heart belongs to theater, because theater does something. It's immediate. You're no longer on a screen, which sort of distances you from the life and experiences of people. It's real. You share the actor's passion, their sweat, their joy, their pain. There's nothing else like it. It's so freeing. And that's also where I started. Without my early days doing street theater in Connecticut, or, all the various, man, I did plays, midnight plays for like maybe 10 people in the audience. But all of those performances led up to who I am today. And how I am able to choose roles that are important to me.
That's such an interesting point that you made there. I do a lot of public speaking,
Good.
training, seminars, etc. And I shared with somebody one day that I give my A+ game to an audience of 400, and I also give that same game to an audience of 4.
Perfect.
And something that you just said resonated with me, because a person who's in that role can choose to be discouraged by the audience or inspired by the opportunity. And it sounds like you've taken the latter.
Yeah, you have to be inspired, man. I mean, that's the beautiful thing of theater. It's real life. You don't know who's going to be there. You don't know how many people's going to be there. You don't know if an actor is going to get sick that night. It's a microchism of life. And that's why, and it's passionate. And this play, The First Deep Breath, it is everything that the title says. Okay. And, my wife is suffering from Alzheimer's, played by the great Ella Joyce, by the way, who we just did Fences together. And we did a film that's out right now called Catfish Christmas. My very first Christmas rom-com is available on Prime. So she's going to be brilliant, and the cast is fantastic. So.
Wow, that is awesome. Tony, you've got the big play coming up in February. 2023 is probably
Mhm.
going to be a monster year for you. Anything else going on that you're excited about that you already know about is on the horizon?
Just the unknown. I mean, the play is huge. That's because it's gonna introduce me to a whole. Because since it's out here in LA, all the producers and directors are gonna come out, and perhaps some of them will see me in another light. You know how they like to stigmatize you and say, "Well, I didn't know he was capable of doing that." Well, you never listen. You never got woke. I mean, so that's going to be extremely beneficial. Then finishing the gig in Stockholm, which I can't tell you more about it. It's an NDA, uh, but it's in the gaming world. Um, and I'm also working on my autobiography. I think it's time. Uh, I want it to be a multimedia thing. I got all kinds of fan art that has been presented to me over the years. I want to include that. I want to include interviews of different people I've worked with. And I want to, I think I got however many movies I've done. I want to sort of chapter it based on the different work experiences and the different places that I've been. I've been in every state in this country except for Wyoming. Okay. And that says something for a little black kid from Harvard, Connecticut.
Yes, it does. Tony, we've got maybe 3.5 minutes left, but I want to ask you as we wrap up our conversation today, which has been absolutely awesome.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure talking with you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And you're a great sister, Jacqueline. Thank you.
Listen, shout out to my sister Jackie, who just makes all these wonderful opportunities possible. She is a real gem, and I appreciate her and want to shout her out as well this afternoon. When we come to the end of the line, when we come to the end of the road, what do you want Tony Todd's legacy to be?
I want to. I want to break all the conceptions. A lot of people just know me as Candyman, and that's fine. Everybody can have their favorite, but that's just a fraction of who I am. That was a luck of a draw. I just want to, do more humanitarian work and just live by it as an example. Trust me, my aunt worked as a domestic. She cleaned other people's houses. Okay, I grew up poor. But she always instilled in me, you can be whoever you want. And she made sure every summer that I was involved in a different summer activity, and that my mind was expanded to what's possible. And I think all of us have to find that fire inside of ourselves so that we can make this planet more sustainable and more enjoyable. And no, not everybody needs two AR-15s in a closet. What you really need is peace and love, and acceptance. So that's kind of what I want my legacy to be. And now that I'm doing voiceover for cartoons, I'm reaching kids. I got horror movies in the bag. I got real life drama present to people. And God bless the holidays, and God bless your food today. And let's not have any drama at the Christmas table.
That's right. We're definitely shouting out prayers for that. Tony, you have a social media presence. You're not hiding from anyone. You're out there giving your gifts to the world. How would people stay connected to you?
You can find me on Twitter at Tony Todd 54 or on Instagram, Tony Todd Official. Go on Prime and search for a movie.
One of the best things you do. In fact, folks, do it on Christmas Day here. That'd be a great way to spend your Christmas afternoon. Family and friends and loved ones. We've got the wonderful actor Tony Todd here today, who has graciously given us this 30 minutes of rich dialogue. Tony, I'm going to be looking for you sometime in 23 to come back on the platform. We look forward to seeing you then. I think you went on mute.
Hello?
Yes, you're back.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for that, folks. I just want to say Merry Christmas, everybody. Ho, ho, ho. Get your eggnog and your grog.
Tony, thank you so much for being a part of the conversation, brother.
Blessings.
All right. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Actor Tony Todd joining us this afternoon. You may recognize his voice and his face from movies such as Platoon, Lean on Me, The Rock, and of course, his signature piece, Candyman, which everybody has probably seen. Well, a lot of people have seen. You know, I know it's a generational thing, but the new Candyman is out too. So if you don't know anything about Candyman, you need to definitely check that out. I'm going to come back in just a moment, and we're going to shift the conversation a little bit, talk about something that is relatively serious. We introduced the topic last week as we talked a little bit about the suicide of DJ Twitch Boss, and we're going to talk a little bit about emotional stability during the holiday season with a couple of mental health, I'm going to call them experts this afternoon, because I see them back there in the green room just waiting to come on and share their knowledge and expertise with us this afternoon. We're going to do that in just a moment. I'm Kenny Anderson at Second Chance, and I hope that you're having a great afternoon.
Why do we say praise 90.1 FM? Because the blessing is in the praise. Filling your day with songs of praise on Praise 90.1 FM.
When is the best time to talk to your family about staying in touch during a disaster? When floodwaters reach your door? When wildfires are engulfing the edge of your neighborhood? Or an earthquake is destroying buildings? Or is the best time perhaps today? During a disaster, you may not be able to stay in touch with your family or friends as easily as you think. Go to ema.alabama.gov and make your emergency plan today. Don't wait. Communicate. Brought to you by the Alabama Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, and the Ad Council.
Transforming lives.
Transforming lives.
You're listening to Second Chance with Kenneth Anderson.
Welcome back to the Second Chance radio broadcast. I'm Kenny Anderson, delighted to be here with you today on this very special Christmas Day broadcast of the Second Chance radio broadcast, heard every Sunday from 2 to 4 p.m. Central Standard Time from the campus of Oakwood University, from the studio of Praise 90.1 FM. You may be listening this afternoon on 90.1 FM locally. You may be on the internet this afternoon at wglu.org, or you may be benefiting from the live stream where you can actually see our guests on Praise 90.1 FM's Facebook page or Praise 90.1 FM's YouTube page. We are absolutely thrilled and delighted that you've taken this time to be with us on this afternoon. And at this time, I have the privilege of introducing my next guest for the broadcast, and I'm excited to introduce them because they're going to share some great information this afternoon from the mental health space. This is a time of year where a lot of people are experiencing the holiday season in different degrees of emotions. And I wanted them to come on this afternoon and share a little bit about their expertise. Dr. Mavis Major is a practitioner, academician, who has been a social worker for over 30 years. Dr. Major is a licensed clinical social worker who holds a doctorate degree in human services. Currently, she's practicing as a psychotherapist for the Department of Psychiatry, Behavioral Health Department for a renowned regional medical center in Reno, Nevada. She also serves as a contributing faculty member for Walden University and the University of Massachusetts Global. My good friend, Dr. Mavis Major, welcome to the Second Chance broadcast. How are you doing?
Thank you. Doing great over here in Nevada with all the snow.
Well, hey, Merry Christmas. Ho, ho, ho.
Merry Christmas.
It's that time of year. Also joining us is John Ruffin. John is a licensed professional counselor. He's the owner of A Touch of Peace Counseling Services. He's been in the field for over 20 years after passing my psychology class and has been in private practice for the past 6 years. He feels anyone can get in touch with peace. John, welcome to the broadcast this afternoon.
Yes. Thank you. Merry Christmas to all. I'm glad to be here.
Listen, guys, it's great to have you both here. I wanted to have some experts in the field of mental health, people who are seasoned and steeped in the understanding of the mental health challenges that people face all throughout the year, but especially during the holiday season, to maybe give some people some meaningful tips and some advice on how they can navigate this very difficult time of year. I, for one, understand this in the immediate moment because I just lost my mother-in-law on September the 11th. We just buried her on December the 17th, just ahead of the Christmas holiday. And that gap in our lives, my wife and I, is going to be a little bit painful this year, and we're finding ways to be able to reconcile that loss. Not only loss, but economic challenges, as well as family disruption and dysfunction, and so many other things that are going on this time of year for people. The holidays are not always the happiest time for people. I'm going to start with Dr. Major and talk to me generally about how people approach this time of year, because some approach it with great anticipation and enthusiasm, while others are dealing with the weight and the burden of life's realities. Just talk generally about this season and this time of year.
Thank you, Kenny, and my condolences to your wife and your entire family. The holidays are very anticipatory. We look forward to all of the decorations, all of the beautiful lights and the trees and everything that comes with the holidays. And so I think that in general, there is a anticipation for good food and family and friends. But like you said, there's another part of that, and that is for those who do not have maybe the financial resources, as we know that this is a very heavily marketed holiday for shopping and spending money. And then secondly, they may not have what they perceive as a close family connection, where they see their friends and families traveling to see each other or having big events and big dinners, and they may not be a part of that type of system. And so it could be very heartbreaking for some people.
John, talk to me a little bit about your general thoughts about this holiday season that, happens to be one of my favorite times of year. I'm a big Christmas dude. I'm not all about gift getting. I love more than anything now at this time of my life, gift giving. But I also recognize that this is a time of year where we can really reflect on some very positive and healthy things. At the same time, people are challenged by real world experiences and situations. So talk to me generally from your own expertise, from your own vantage point about facing this time of year.
So in this time of year, the expectation is to connect more with families. We're off from work. We are slowing down. We're being purposeful to really show a love and care to the people that are closest to us. But we live in a world that's pretty disconnected. We can live in the same house with people and not really get to know them. We are on our devices. We are constantly bombarded with work, or working from home is really big now. We're worried about contact with diseases that are out there and pandemics that have gone on. And so there's a lot of devices that have really hurt that connection. And what I think happens now is when we lose those connections, we lose that momentum to rejuvenate. Getting with family on a regular basis, talking to loved ones, does some rejuvenation to our soul. And when we don't have that on a regular basis, it really does leave an emptiness that is left. And when people think about reconnecting, it can almost be scary because they're thinking about all the things that the people that supposed to love them either don't know or haven't known, or will they be able to, get to know me or accept me, even though they haven't seen or talked to me in a long time. So sometimes it's the anxiety of getting together after a long absence can cause that anxiety to happen.
For people who perhaps have experienced loss at this time of year, for people who perhaps are having financial challenges at this time of year, for people who perhaps are dreading the fact that this is a family holiday because there's family disruption, what kinds of practical things can you offer to those individuals, Dr. Major, in order to be able to help them maybe map out some roadmap towards successfully moving through this holiday season? Because it's interesting how, we talk about the Christmas holiday coming and going, But for a lot of people, they can't shake it because the reality of what they're dealing with still lingers on. So between that space between Thanksgiving and New Year's is really a 6-week period of time. It gets very, very emotional for some people. So talk a little bit about that.
That's a good question. So first thing is, if you have suffered a loss, a significant family loss, like I did 2 years ago, my father passed right on the week of Christmas. I think that we have to recognize that the celebration of life and the acknowledgement and honoring our loved ones does not mean that we have to discontinue the big dinner and the gift giving and all that comes. Because I think honoring our loved ones also includes embracing their memories, celebrating their life, but also moving forward in our own lives in a peaceful place. And so I just want to encourage people not to feel guilty for enjoying the holidays, even in the midst of a loss, because we still have the happy memories and the love that we receive from our loved ones that we take with us as we move forward in our lives.
John,
And this,
sorry.
Go ahead. I was just going to say, and for those who do not have close family connections, I really want to encourage people to look at creating their own families. Family does not have to be a blood relative. It can be those people that we are close to, people who we share values and belief systems, people who love us and whom we love. And so creating your own family is an alternative to being able to get together with our extended family, or if there is a breach in our extended family, that doesn't mean that we have to be alone. And then sorry, I'm so long.
Your pauses are throwing me off, but go ahead. I'm sorry. I keep interrupting you.
The third thing I was just going to speak to in terms of what you talked about in terms of managing expectations is to talk to your children and let them know what to expect. For instance, I was a single mom, and so Christmas for 4 children and a single mom was maybe one gift per child, or something that helped them to focus on other people. I remember taking my children to the Salvation Army to have them, give to others by serving the meal on holidays. And so manage expectations, talk to them ahead of time on what it is that we're going to do, how it is that we're going to celebrate, and get a buy-in from the family so that there's not a big disappointment, but they already know in advance what we're going to do to acknowledge and celebrate the holiday.
Listen, you just said a mouthful right there, because you and I both know, and John does too, that, and you all have kids, we don't, but we know that there are kids all over the world who are bursting at the seams today. And when they woke up this morning, in fact, if they were like me when I was growing up, my parents would do their work in the wee hours of the morning. Mm-hmm. And I'd be snooping around a little bit to see if I could peep out something that was happening in that living room while they were wrapping gifts and things like that, just awaiting Christmas morning. And we had asked for something maybe, and sometimes we got it, sometimes we didn't. We came from a, economically challenged environment, but we were always taught to not focus on the gift getting. And that was important. So your whole conversation about managing expectations is so important, especially when we're dealing with so many people being economically challenged today for different reasons. We went through the pandemic. People, of course, have left their jobs for various reasons and downsized for various reasons. Sometimes because of the pandemic, there's only one parent in the house now because there was a loss. Some instances, there's no parent. I mean, there's a lot of stuff, a lot of moving parts that have occurred over this pandemic that have impacted where we are some 2.5 years later.
Exactly.
And that's significant.
Indeed.
Yeah. John, talk to me a little bit about what you see as some of the pitfalls of the holiday season. And I'm speaking specifically as it relates to an extension of what Dr. Major was talking about, expectations. But, we've got travel and some of the expectations related to that. We've got spending money and that's one of the things that people have to look at. We talk about how we eat and drink in moderation, and how people maybe have to try to balance the challenges of being around family members who may be catalysts for emotional things that might take place. So talk about some of the pitfalls that might occur during this time, and then offer some solutions that might support people's efforts to navigate through this season.
So one of the biggest pitfalls for me is not taking time to enjoy the season. You know, we make it really difficult on ourselves. We're over busy. We're constantly letting stress get to us. And this is supposed to be a time where we're supposed to be relaxed and just enjoying the moment. And so I think that would probably be, for me, the biggest catalyst for some of the stress that people cause on themselves during this period of time. You should simplify it. It should be simple. It should be a stop and smell the roses type of day. And I hope that this day is for you that way. So some of the things I would encourage you guys to do is do things that you normally don't do on a regular day. You know, take a walk with your family, sit down and watch a movie with your family, play video games, or play board games like we used to do when we were little, or everyone get on a bicycle and take a walk, or go to the park, or walk the dog, or do facials with everyone. This is a time to let your hair down, have fun, and really show the humanity that your kids and your family, the humanity side of life, that we can all connect, that we're all in this thing together. And I just want to add one more tool for those that are experiencing loss. One thing that you can do is create monuments. These are moments in time where your loved one has given you something good, or something joyful, or something that reminds you of them in a positive way. Your loved one has left you a gift, and that's the experience that you've had with them. And so create those monuments. I know for me, when I lost my grandmother, it took me a while to really accept that she was gone. And when I did, it hurt. It hit me pretty hard. It took me almost 3 years to fully accept it. And someone told me to do this. They said, remember the one thing that your grandmother used to always do with you, and then go do it. And for me, it was feeding the homeless. And I remember that first year where I went and I said, okay, I'm going to feed the homeless in honor of my grandmother, like a monument to her. And it was a way for me to connect with her. And I left there feeling like I had an experience with her again. And so the loved ones that have left you, I know there's some people who have just recently lost, and my condolences to you, Kenny, and your family, have lost loved ones. Take time to make a list of all the things that they have done impactful into your life. Create a monument, and then go out and just spend time doing those things in memory of them, and realize that they, even though they're not here, they're not gone. Mm-hmm. The residue of their life is still inside of you, and you can take that joy in that moment and relive it anytime you so choose.
You know, John, what you said is so important, because that to me really is the essence of our lives. You know, if we're honest, all of us, if we're honest, life is finite. Mm-hmm. We know it's going to, I know we're a death-denying society. We don't like to talk about it. We don't even like to plan for it. And sometimes we get caught off guard as a consequence of that. And that creates further challenges for our lives. But for those of us who are savvy enough to be able to accept the realities of our life and say, you know, our lives are finite, and that when either my life or someone else's life comes to an end that's close to me, I now have an opportunity to create these new traditions. You know, I lost my mother in 1988. I lost my dad in, I lost my sister, my youngest sister, in 1988. I lost my dad in 1992. I lost my oldest sister in 1987. And I lost my mother in 1998. And so with these four significant losses, we think about losses sometimes as an erasing of a person. Mm-hmm. But a loss is not an erasure. Right. This person, you use the word monument. You know, these people had lives. I had relationships with them. They were meaningful. They were valuable. They were important. So to your point, John, how do we memorialize that? How do we embrace the spirit of that memory and those experiences and keep them alive. And some of the things you said, I think, I hope people took some notes down, are so valuable and so important and worthy of exploration, because those who might be hurting even now, and the pain of the loss never goes away. It just gets a little bit less invasive or maybe a little less painful. But every Christmas, like today, the day that I always went home and visited my parents when they lived in New York and New Jersey, there is no home cooking from mom. There's not my dad and I sitting around the table anymore. But those are some great memories that I have. So how do I honor them in the present day because they're gone? You said something so important and meaningful, and I appreciate you for sharing that. And Dr. Major, and I need to say this too, we got so deep into this conversation, I missed my halfway mark. I want to let people know who are just tuning in that we're talking to Dr. Mavis Major and John Ruffin. They are mental health experts, not just on my show, but in life. And I've invited them to come today to talk a little bit about the emotional journey that people go through during this time of year and how they can come out on the other side. Mavis, I want to ask you this question because I believe that this holiday season also gives us an opportunity to do some forward thinking in terms of where we go with our lives. That as we go through this maybe difficult tunnel and we try to navigate the choppy waters emotionally that we might experience, most of us are going to come out on the other side of this. And so as we think about the new year and the new opportunities that are presented, how can we take this moment and leverage it in such a way that we can position ourselves for success as we move forward?
That's a really good question, because I think that for those who are already suffering with depression or unresolved grief, sometimes they don't look at a new year as a new opportunity. And so I think that part of what we have to do is restructure the way that we think, and to recognize that every day is a new opportunity to move forward in a different way than we did the day before, and to not take with us all of leave as problems or failures of 22 into 23, but to make new decisions about what it is that we want to move forward into the next year. But we also have to give ourselves room for correction. You know, things that we plan don't always go in the same way that we planned. And so we have to give ourselves room to reset. And I think that's what a new year does for us, is gives us an opportunity to reset. But sometimes we reset 2 and 3, 4 times a year, and that's okay. That we don't look at things that don't go our way as a failure, but look at it as an opportunity to improve or to change directions based on the feedback that we're getting. And so I just want to encourage people to move forward in a positive attitude into their new year.
John, we, of course, are still reflecting on the tragic death of DJ Stephen Twitch Boss, 40 years old, married, 3 children. Many people are still debating on social media pages. This guy seemed like he was on top of the world. The beautiful images that we see of his family dancing, anticipating Christmas. He wakes up one morning, he drives down the street to a motel, shoots himself to death, and people are still trying to understand that. And of course, I believe personally it reveals something that that many of us know little about, and that is about the experience of depression and suicide. There may be some people out there who are feeling the weight of life right now, who may be feeling depressed, who may be suicidal. What do you have to say to those individuals?
So first thing I want to say is that suicide is not just synonymous with depression. There's a lot of reason people choose to commit suicide that doesn't have anything to do with depression.
That's a
and
great
so that's
point.
why you get shocked when you see people who you didn't see as depressed. People may do it because of anger, despair. They may be in crisis. They may want to make a point. And so there's a lot of factors that go into your cognitive thought process to say, I want to take my own life. And the biggest component to this is rational thinking. See, we live in a world that is constantly trying to shape our thought process and our thinking. And a lot of times, some of those ideologies that they want are not based in reality, or not based in rational thinking. I can give you plenty of examples of things that we will consider. Think about the music we listen to, and some of the concepts that might be in the music that we listen to aren't even rational. It just sounds good. You know, it's a good rhyme. It's a good storytelling. Movies we watch are based in fantasy. We love fantasy. And so a lot of times we find ourselves having a difficult time staying in rational thought, being in that rational moment. And so when you see people that are constantly, for long periods of time, not being rational in their thoughts, there is a problem. And you need to make them aware, but also try to surround them with rational thoughts, like challenge their rational. Sometimes we will let, for the sake of argument, we'll let someone be irrational in their thought process. Think about today. You're going to have family members who are going to have all kind of conversations, and they're going to be saying all kind of things. And just for the sake of argument, they're going to say stuff, and you're like, man, that's not rational. Where did you get that concept from? And we won't challenge it. And so they will believe it. People will say irrational things and wait for your response to see if it's valid. And so if you don't say anything to your loved ones, when you hear them talking irrational, you may be feeding or fueling that irrational thought. So I just encourage people that, one, check the reality of things, question the concepts that are being promoted around you. Just because you see it on television, just because you see it on the news or on social media, doesn't necessarily mean it's valid. Question it, challenge it, study it, review it, and then talk about it. Because a lot of times, if you just spoke some of the things that you're thinking about out loud, it would correct itself, because it wouldn't make sense. And so make sure that you're staying in rational thought, because wanting to commit, so we are in our nature survivors. We have a surviving net gene, or we wouldn't be able to be as, our world wouldn't have grown as much as it has over the thousands of years we've been around if we didn't have a survival instinct. So it is irrational for you to want to commit suicide. That is an irrational thought. And so if you're having that thought, you need to check the rationale, because, and I'm going to say it with like this is the best way it's been said. Suicide is a permanent response to a temporary issue.
All right. Listen, I didn't want to cut you off. I thought that was like a segue into something else, but it sounds like you're done, and we're done, because I'm looking at the clock and we got like a minute and a half. So I want to say two things. Number one, I want to say that for those out there who may be challenged in your life experience, for whatever reason you might be challenged, there is a suicide and crisis lifeline, and that number is 988. Memorize that number. You don't have to be a professional counselor to memorize that number. We all know 911 gets us an emergency response in case of a crisis. We all know that 411 gets us information that we need in order to be able to move through life. 988 can get you help regarding your own emotional experience that's going on right now. Don't use terms like I'm crazy or I'm not crazy or I'm insane. And, we put so many labels that stigmatize people on these things that actually scare them away from the help that they need. And we have to be careful about that. I also want to thank both John and Dr. Major for validating what I said at the very beginning of the segment, that they're experts in mental health. And I'm going to have them on again and again and again to support these kinds of conversations that I think are so necessary, if they would provide me with the opportunity to have these conversations. Dr. Major, if people want to connect with you, I know you've got a social media presence, very active on LinkedIn as well. How would people connect with you?
I think LinkedIn is the best way. That's my professional network, and I'm open to talking to people, connecting them with resources in their area, and just being a listening ear if possible.
And is it Mavis Major? How
Mavis Mavis Major
Okay.
is my LinkedIn. Yes.
All right. That's where they'd find your LinkedIn. John, how would people find you out there?
So my website is atouchofpeace.org. I'm also on Instagram and TikTok, and I do motivational videos on those under A Touch of Peace.
Man, you're a TikToker.
I am. I'm a TikToker. I'm going to use every advantage I can.
Man, listen, I have a TikTok account. I've never used it. People keep saying, man, you need to go on TikTok. You need to use TikTok. We might have to talk about how I become a TikToker.
Oh, you'll love it. You'll love it. I was against it too, but I'm a believer now.
Well, I'm not against it. I just have never used it. So I might need to draw on your expertise and your skill and your passion for it, seems like.
Oh, yeah.
To be able to understand the landscape and the territory. Mavis, my good friend for so many years. John.
So many years.
I know. And John, my former student, I said, you passed
Yes.
psychology, man. So, you know,
Yes.
you were definitely destined for success.
Oh, yeah. Love, man. Love the experience you gave me. You made me love psychology in a way that was unique because you actually, I remember one class you came in mad, you slammed the book down, you were acting like we were going to all fail. And then you started a lesson about anger. You always kept my attention somehow.
That was good.
You gotta apply the knowledge, man. You can't just come and talk about anger management is. You gotta let people know what's going on and bring it to them in the right way. So thank you so much for being here with me today, folks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. That is Dr. Mavis Major and John Ruffin talking to us today about emotional balance during the holiday season. They shared lots and lots of good information, folks. We're going to come back in just a moment with more of the broadcast. I'm Kenny Anderson at Second Chance. I hope that you're having an amazing and wonderful day.
I'm Robbie, and I'm on a waiting list for a double lung transplant.
A lung disease is threatening Robbie's life.
I've had cystic fibrosis all my life, but now my future depends on getting a transplant.
Right now, tens of thousands of people are waiting for an organ or tissue transplant.
It's hard to imagine a greater gift than the gift of life from an organ donor. It means I get to keep living.
You have the power to donate life. Be an organ, eye, and tissue donor. To find out how, go today to legacyalabama.org.
Transforming lives.
Transforming lives.
You're listening to Second Chance with Kenneth Anderson.
Welcome back to the broadcast. And once again, Merry Christmas to everyone on this special Christmas edition of the Second Chance radio broadcast. I hope that you're having a good afternoon. Once again, thank you for being a part of our day. I know that you're spending time with family and friends. Perhaps you're traveling. And of course, we are appreciative that you've taken some time to tune in to the Second Chance radio broadcast, whether that's at 90.1 FM, which is the radio station, WJLU.org, on the internet, or you're live streaming this afternoon on our Facebook page, which is Praise 90.1 FM, or our YouTube page, which is Praise 90.1 FM. We're grateful that you've taken this time to be with us this afternoon, and I am honored to be a host on this very special day that I have dedicated this broadcast to the life and legacy of my very dear mother, Ernestine Fletcher Tibbs, who we laid to rest on December the 17th. My next guest is a good friend, and I always have an interesting time introducing friends because I just want to bring them in the show without doing anything other than saying what's up. But I always also feel it's important for me to set the dynamics and the context for which we're having our conversation. So please allow me to do that at this time. Townsend Rodney Spratlin is a resident of Huntsville, and he's lived here since 1988, a native of the great city of Chicago, which I always identify as my second favorite city in the whole world. He is a person who has spent significant time in the retail management space as a general manager for dealership and many other businesses in this area. He's currently in the lab space at Madison Core Labs, located right here in Huntsville, where he is a territory manager engaged in some very, very significant work. He is also a single father of a 19-year-old daughter who is in nursing school. His oldest daughter is married with 4 girls and 4 boys. So she has a team, not just a family, but a team.
A team.
And I'm so glad to have you here this afternoon, my brother. Welcome to the Second Chance platform.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me.
Yes, sir. It's good to have you. And the thing that I left out, because I wanted to kind of move into our conversation, that is, in one sense, a very serious conversation, but I believe it's going to also be a very inspiring conversation, is that Rodney is dealing with a medical condition that he has had for a little bit of time now. And we've talked about this over the years and more recently talked about it again. And Rodney shared with me that he's wanting to talk more about this because he believes it can help people. And I believe it can too. And that's why I wanted to invite him here. He's dealing with a very aggressive form of prostate cancer. And Rodney, God bless you for coming on today to share your story. I know it will inspire people. I know it will inform and enlighten and educate people. So let's get right into it. Talk to me a little bit about the beginning of your journey with cancer.
Well, it started, I guess, around 2016. And it started because I like to work out. I like to be fit. I was going to the gym and I got to that place where I couldn't lose weight. I was fatigued. I was tired. At the time, I was working for a laboratory out of Atlanta. And my windshield time as an outside sales rep was about 10 to 12 hours a day. So I'm going to the gym at 4:30, 5 o'clock, going home, hitting the road. My territory at that time was from Memphis over to Chattanooga, up to Kentucky and North Alabama. So I drove a lot and I didn't really have time to pay attention to my health or anything else. But anyway, so I'm going to the gym. It's not working for me anymore. And some of the guys said, you need hormone therapy. You know, you're getting older, it'll pick you up. So I go down to the clinic in Madison and I ask them about hormone therapy. So the doctor says, well, first we have to check your PSA because hormone therapy makes prostate cancer grow faster. So he said, if you have a problem, you're going to make it a lot worse. So he checked my PSA. And unfortunately, he said, your PSA is very elevated. So I'm going to set you up with the urologist. I go to the urologist and wow, this is where it gets difficult for me. I go to the urologist and he checks my PSA again. He tells me your PSA is very high. I would suspect that you have prostate cancer, but we need to do a biopsy. Now, for people that don't know, a biopsy, they take 12 cores of your prostate and they test them for cancer. Your prostate has 2 sides. So take 6 from one side, 6 from the other side. Well, unfortunately, I had Cobra insurance at the time. And I don't like to badmouth people, but my insurance was out of pocket because my job had converted me over to 1099. So my insurance was $971 a month cash. And they denied my biopsy. And, you know, I'm African American. My brother had prostate cancer at my age. I'm over 50 and my PSA is elevated. So there was no excuse to deny that biopsy because I knew something was wrong. So the urologist called me and said, hey, they denied your biopsy, but we're going to keep trying because I believe this is, you know, what you have. So in the meantime, I changed jobs. That job phased out and I took a job here in Huntsville that was less money, but they had good insurance. So coming through the door, they gave me insurance. And I went back to the same urologist. I got the biopsy done. And when the doctor calls you, there's a problem. He called me when he got the results back and he said, Mrs. Bradley, you need to come to my office first thing in the morning. So I'm like, okay. I go to his office the next morning and he said, unfortunately, your cancer is spreading. I would estimate that you have 6 months to live without surgery. So I'm a single father. I'm raising a daughter And at that time, she was in high school, just before she went to college. So what do you do? I mean, you know, when you hear 6 months, you don't have time to think about anything else. You know, you were talking about depression. I can tell you that it's real. And I'll give you a stat later on that's going to really show you what prostate cancer does to people mentally. And that's the reason why I'm willing to come on here and bare my soul, because I'm going to talk about things that are extremely personal. But there are things that we do not talk about as men, especially in our community. So anyway, so I go to the doctor and he says, you have 6 months to live. So at the time, we had a medical director at CORE that specializes in cancer. So I called him. I said, I want to show you my report. And he said, you know, prostate cancer is the slowest growing cancer next to thyroid cancer. He said, you're going to be fine. Bring me the report. Taking the report. By the time I got home, he was calling me. He said, I need you to turn around and come right back to my office right now. So I turn around and go back to the office. We sit in his office, shuts the door. He said, they misdiagnosed you. Your cancer is worse. He said, you had 9 out of 12 samples. It was actually 10 out of 12 samples. He said, but they are correct. You have about 6 months to live. Wow. So, you know, I was at a loss. You know, what do you do? So I had recently got divorced from my ex-wife, and I have a child to raise. We've always been good friends. So I called her and I said, what should I do? So she made some phone calls and she said, you know, I wanted to go, being Adventist, I wanted to go to Loma Linda in California, but it was too far. So we decided on MD Anderson in Texas, which is renowned for cancer treatment. So my best friend drives a truck to Houston every week. So he was like, just ride with me. You can get there. I'll rent you a car, you know, or you can rent a car and you can do what you want to do and I'll pick you up on the way back. So long story short, I go to MD Anderson for my consultation. They're looking over my paperwork. They checked me. They also said, you have about 6 months to live. So that's the third person that said your time is that short. So you know, I felt real let down. I come back home. I thought about it. I called them back. I said, what can we do? He said, we're going to schedule emergency surgery for you in 2 weeks. Now, understand, this is 2 weeks from the time I even found out that I had cancer. So I didn't have time to think about it, to prepare. You know, they said you'll be in a wheelchair. You know, you need people to help you. So I reached out to my ex-wife again and I said, can you fly down there my last day and fly back with me? Because I'll be in a wheelchair. I will not be able, I'll have a drainage bag, a catheter. You know, I've got to fly through Atlanta airport. I've got to fly, you know, there's no way I can make it. So she thought about it and she said, you know what, I'll just go with you. So, and we said, we'll take our daughter. And the three of us went to Houston, flew to Houston. So I had the surgery. That was on April the 17th. I made some notes. That was April the 17th of 2019. And I had the surgery. I come back. Now it takes some time to see if their PSA is elevated or if it stays where it is. So my brother had the surgery. His was 0.02 after his surgery. It's still 0.02 20 years ago. Wow. It has never moved. Wow. I wasn't that fortunate. They checked my PSA and it kept rising. Wait a couple of months, it's still rising. Wait 6 months, it's still rising. So now we know that the cancer is spreading. So now I'm upset because I thought about if the COBRA insurance that I paid almost $1,000 a month cash money had done what they were supposed to do, I wouldn't be here. I could have gotten this taken care of 3 years earlier before it started spreading. So I called a family member and she said, I know a urologist that graduated from Oakwood. Talk to him about it. Let him, because this is somebody that doesn't get monetized by this decision. Because you understand medicine is a business. So I reached out to Dr. Sterling. he said, I know an attorney that you can talk to. I called the attorney. In my mind, I kind of wanted to find out, could I sue them for denying my claim? Because I had all the markers that said it should not have been denied. So this is when the pandemic was first starting. He did some research, called me back and said, I'm sorry, Mrs. Spradlin, you have 3 years from the date of the denial. When I told him when the denial was, unfortunately, that I had 1 month to get everything done to sue them at the start of the pandemic. There was no way to do that. So I let that go. So now it's about saving my life. So I went, I wanted to go the natural route. So I went natural. I tried to slow it down, the progression as much as possible. I started eating right. I started trying to learn to fast. I did all of that. And the last time my PSA was checked, not this last time, the time before, a year ago, it was 1.9. I had it checked Friday before last. It's 5.61. It's almost tripled. So now that's when I spoke to you the other day and we said, we would do this. And my intent was to put this out there because I don't know how much time I have. They say that from the time that you have the surgery, you have at least 5 years if it's not aggressive and if it's not spreading. A year ago, I had a PET scan, which scans you from the shoulder to your toes. And they said that the cancer was in my prostate bed, even though the prostate had been removed, but it was starting to spread out. And I probably should have done something then, but we're talking about the mental health of it. And we're talking about the fact that I'm a single father with a daughter who has just started college. Her mother lives in Florida now. So I had to make a decision. What's more important? I can do this, but going through this for the next year is going to eat up whatever time she has having to take care of me for her to start college. And she had finished high school in 3 years because we knew I was sick and I was pushing her to get as far down that road as possible. So then how could I stop her from following her dreams because I'm sick? So I elected to wait until she had been in college long enough to kind of figure out life. And, if something happened to me, she'd be able to take care of herself. So I started putting processes in place that if I pass away, where she's going to live, start putting finances in place so that she would have to be, she would be able to take care of herself without having to stop going to college. So now I've done all of that. And now I'm at a place where I'm going to have to do what the doctors say do, which is hormone therapy, radiation therapy over the next year and a half. It is life-changing, Kenny. Though, your previous segment, you were talking about mental health. This is the stat that most people don't understand about prostate cancer. 1 in 7 men with prostate cancer commit suicide.
Wow.
1 in 7.
Wow. That's stunning. At the same time, it's what the messaging should be as it relates to this experience, because there's some serious consequences that come with the diagnosis.
Yes.
And that's the reason why, as you said earlier, I want to echo this again. Brothers, we got to talk about this.
Yes.
We've got to share this with one another. Yes. We've got to have those PSA tests on a regular basis, starting at, a lot of people say, I'm not 50 yet.
40.
If you're African American,
40.
Needs to be earlier.
Yes.
If it's in your family, it needs to be earlier. We need to, as a collective, have these kinds of important conversations. And Rodney, I just am so happy that you're sharing this with us, because I know you're going to inspire some people today with your testimony, with your journey, because oftentimes people have these kinds of experiences and they either suffer in silence or they take the experience on their own and try to find strength within themselves to be able to move through the process. That's not what this is all about. This is really all about connecting in ways that people can be inspired by the message that's being shared. I want to ask you, in the few minutes we have left, we've got about 5 minutes left. There are people listening right now who are family members of people who have prostate cancer. How can family members and friends support people who have this diagnosis?
Well, when I first found out, I went on Facebook and I did a lot of conversations and I opened my life up and I talked about that. And a lot of people messaged me. The only way that I see is if you care about that family member, you have to push them. You have to. The issue with prostate cancer is you're worried about erectile dysfunction. The sad thing is, and this is a quick story, I came back on the way back from MD Anderson. The gentleman that was riding me around in the car looked at my MD Anderson bag and he said, "You coming from MD Anderson?" This was in Atlanta. I said, "Yes." He said, what did you go through? This is an older brother, maybe 10, 15 years older than I am. And I said, "I had prostate cancer." And he put his head down and he said, "I have prostate cancer. And you can elect to remove half of your prostate and that would help save some of the sexual function." He told me I tried to save it. My prostate cancer is spreading so badly now, there's nothing they can do.
Wow.
So in talking to family members, I would say, let them know that that's nothing to be. I had erectile dysfunction for 1 year and 3 months after my surgery. That is usually the issue that as men, we don't feel like men. And in studying the suicide rate, that is the main reason why men have suicides after prostate. Because it's 1 year and 3 months. It's a long time. And you don't feel like a man anymore. And I can't tell you how happy I was when that went away. But that's what we worry about. And I would tell people, if it's your husband, your boyfriend, have that conversation with him. Let him know that you're still there for him, that you'll help him through this process, that sexual dysfunction is just from the trauma of the surgery. You're going to have that. But more times than not, after the surgery, they say you will get back to where you were before the surgery if you wait long enough and do what the doctor says do. So first and foremost, you have to let that go. That's not as important as being here with your family and being here for your children and prolonging your life and having the life that you can enjoy. That's just a small part of it, but that's not your whole life. So be intentional, get them to go to the doctor, get them to talk. If you're denied, press on. If it's in your family history, find another doctor. Have that doctor call whoever's doing your imaging, doing the PET scan. They deny it. Have the doctor call for you. A doctor called for me because they denied the PET scan. A doctor called and got them to do it. On the 20th of next month, I have to have another one. I don't know if they're going to approve it or not. I'm praying that they do. So, I mean, it's, in wrapping this up, that is the most important thing, is letting them know that it's okay. It's part of the process. It's okay to talk about it. If you have questions, reach out to me. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. You can put in my name, Townsend Spradlin or Rodney Spradlin, or Too Savage for You, which is the tag on my car. It's the 2 SAVG for You. And you can reach me there on Instagram. I will conversate with you. I will let you know what I went through. If you have questions about what the doctor told you, I've been going through this for years now, and I'm in the medical field, so I talk to doctors about it all the time. I will do whatever I can to alleviate someone else's pain, that if I can help someone else, because I've gone through it. Because it's a great weight on my shoulders, but we're all here to help each other and to provide service.
Well, listen, brother, in the first quarter of next year, I hope that you'll agree to come back. I want to follow your journey. I want to stay in touch with you. I want you to stay in touch with my audience. I think you have a valuable message to share, a very important message to share. And again, my gratitude is being expressed in this moment for your willingness to come on this platform and share your personal story. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you, Kenny. We have been friends for 25 years at least, if not longer.
That's right.
And I want to say I appreciate your friendship. You've always been there when I needed an ear to whisper into about what I'm going through. You've always given me good advice. You've been a family friend for a very long time. And I will be more than happy to continue to share this journey. If it helps even one person, it's worth it.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate it. And I do need to mention, you're pretty sharp today, man.
Well, you know, I'm an outside sales rep. So, I mean, you know, I have to go in, and when you talk to doctors and nurses and, you know, you want to set a tone where they take you seriously.
Clean, brother, clean.
I'm seeing you out and about now. Come on. I'm still behind you. I'm still trying.
You're doing a great job, brother. It's great to see you, man. Merry Christmas.
Thank you for having me. Merry Christmas.
Thank you. Townsend Rodney Spradlin, folks. What a powerful conversation. What a great way to end our Christmas broadcast today. I'm going to come back in just a moment, and I'm going to simply say thank you to all my guests who've been on the show today, and we'll do that in just a moment. I'll be right back. Kenny Anderson, Second Chance. Hope you're having a great Christmas day.
Perhaps you have some ideas, comments, or suggestions that you would like to share. Or perhaps you'd like to be a guest on the broadcast. We'd love to hear from you. Please feel free to email Kenny Anderson at mxlife@aol.com, or you can like us on the Second Chance Facebook page. That's 2ND Chance. And now, back to more of Second Chance with Kenny Anderson.
Thank you to all of my amazing guests today on our Christmas Day edition of the Second Chance radio broadcast. Dr. Teresa Merriweather Orok, Alabama A&M University. We appreciate her being here today. Actor Tony Todd, what a great conversation we had with him. Dr. Mavis Major, as well as John Ruffin, talking about the emotional challenges that we face during the holiday and how we can navigate those effectively. And Townsend Rodney Spradlin talking about his journey with an aggressive form of prostate cancer. We thank all of my guests for being here today. We have a very special New Year's Day broadcast next week. We're going to be talking with some amazing guests, and we'll let you more about that. We'll let you know more about that as the week goes on. In the meantime, I hope that you have a great rest of the week. Remember, as always, knowledge is better than riches. Have a great afternoon, and we'll talk again soon. Have a good day.
Thank you for tuning in to Second Chance. We hope that the information that was shared has been a blessing to you and that your life will be enriched as a result of it. We'd love to hear from you, so please send your email comments to Kenneth Anderson at mxlife@aol.com. That's mxlife@aol.com. And check out our Facebook page, 2ND Chance. That's 2ND Chance. In the meantime, have a great week, and we'll talk to you again next week. Good day.